All right, good morning and welcome to our virtual lunch and learn for Friday, May 15th. And today we're interviewing Jazz Gallagher, Hometown Credit Union's card specialist. Welcome, Jazz.
Hey, Kurt.
I'm so glad to have you on today. So tell us a little bit about what you do for Hometown.
So I do a variety of things regarding your credit and debit cards. Anything that can go wrong with your debit card that can hold up a transaction is something that I work on, as well as taking care of any transaction disputes or fraud claims and working those out with Visa so we can get a resolution, as well as replacing cards and creating new credit cards, kind of anything under the sun if it's got to do with a plastic card.
Wow. It's so interesting because cards don't just work by magic. There's so much behind the scenes that goes on with them. And it's really interesting to hear about your role and how you're able to assist members whenever there's an issue to make sure things are running smoothly.
Oh yes, there's a multitude of things that can hold up a transaction. The incredible thing is that a lot of them I can fix pretty instantaneously by changing settings or manipulating limits.
You're pretty much a wizard.
Yes, somebody called me a debit card fairy once, and I was like, I will take it, okay.
That's awesome. We'll see if we can get you a new name tag that has that on it.
Right, I'm like, I would like that on my desk.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes people will be surprised to learn some things about their cards, and one of those times can be if they travel. So tell us what people should know before they're traveling with their hometown card.
So if you are traveling out of our home region, like the Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin area, it's highly recommended to give us a call and let us know where you're going and when you'll be back. I can open up transactions by specific states or countries to allow you to see no hiccups with your funds through your travels. And then I can set that to expire when you get home, so your limitations will go right back to normal.
Let's say somebody forgets to let us know, and all of a sudden they go on a little vacation and they had just used their card in Owatonna or Faribault one day, and the next day they're trying to use it in Miami Beach. Then what?
Then our fraud team would likely block that as suspected fraud. And if you give us a call, I can resolve that in a couple of minutes and get Florida opened up to their card and get them back in business.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Now, do you have any advice for uh, things to be prepared for when you are traveling as far as being able to pay for things?
I generally recommend customers bring more than one payment method, whether they're bringing a debit card from another account or another financial institution, or their debit card and a credit card, or a prepaid gift card or travel card, which we do supply if customers need them. Just having a backup, because the worst thing that can happen is having your one payment method fail when that's the only thing that you've got to rely on.
Yeah. Yep, I think that's great advice. And what about if somebody travels overseas or to a different country? Is there anything they need to know about that?
I would recommend researching different international transaction fees, or making sure that you pay attention if you use a foreign ATM to what processing fee they charge,
Okay.
because you can rack up a lot more charges just paying conversion fees for international currency.
Oh, sure, because not each currency is worth the same amount, so there's a fee for converting that.
Yes, and I know some credit cards offer no international service fees. So if you have one of those cards, they're mostly designed for traveling, then you can avoid that. But just knowing what the limitations on that are going to be depending on what payment method or what type of ATM you're using. Most of them at airports and such will have something on them stating this is the fee that will be applied. And a
Okay.
lot of times I know that's a percentage.
Okay. Okay. So sometimes when I go to the store and I run my hometown card at the register, I get the choice of running it as a credit or a debit. Can you help me understand the difference between those two?
Definitely. When you're running it as a credit, it does not require you to use a PIN. So it's a non-PIN based transaction. And when you use your PIN, it's a PIN-based transaction. Now, HomeTown offers 15 PIN-based transactions per month for free. And after that, it accrues a $1 charge. So a best practice is using that as credit whenever possible to both avoid those fees, and it's a little bit safer sometimes because skimmers on devices can pick up your PIN number as well if you're using it as a PIN-based transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a little bit harder because fake magnetic strips are possible to make. And if they've got that PIN number, that opens up the possibility of withdrawing cash fraudulently.
That's scary stuff. I'm so old. I remember one of my first jobs working in retail. We would run the card for the customer, and then we'd have them sign a receipt, and then we'd keep all the receipts. And so today, as we know, customers run the cards themselves on a transaction pad, and then they get that option of choosing PIN or credit so they can sign or use their PIN number. So that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you had mentioned the scammers and fraudsters possibly placing card skimmers where it can record your card information. And if they're able to also record your PIN number, they can access a person's account and essentially take the money out of there. How do we keep ourselves safe from that happening?
So I have a couple of tips that I usually give out. It's a really good best practice if you're using an ATM or paying at the pump to pay close attention to where you're putting your card. If there's something that looks like it's out of place, the skimmers are usually little plastic bits that you can see a little bit of when they're sticking out of the machine. And just making sure that you don't see anything that looks like it shouldn't be there before you insert your card. As well as when you're shopping online, paying close attention. Does the deal look too good to be true? Because I've worked with people who said, hey, well, that microwave I saw at Lowe's was $250, but it was $50 on this website I saw on Facebook, so I ordered it. Those customers never ended up with their microwave.
Oh.
A lot of sites like Facebook are not highly regulated, so you're not always certain that you're going to be working with a merchant that is going to follow through and send you the merchandise. And then you have things like free trials as well, where you think you're just paying for shipping until that extra charge comes through if you don't cancel in time. And those can be upwards of $80 to $100. And, making sure that you know what's going on with your account is a big one. Making sure that you know what you've purchased and how much it costed, and paying attention to anything smaller. A lot of times if somebody has swiped your card information, they're going to try smaller dollar amounts first and see if you notice. Mm-hmm. And that can add up to quite a bit.
Wow.
That also helps you from starting a dispute you don't need to. I've worked with customers before that just, hey, I forgot the name that it was billing under, and then we've opened a dispute, but it is something that they purchased.
Sure.
So it kind of helps both ways, from having to go through the hassle of replacing a card you didn't need to, or from catching it while you've got the chance. Generally, we can only dispute items that are within 60 days of age. Okay. So you want to pay good attention and let us know immediately, not just to meet that time frame, but the longer your card information is out there, the more you're at risk.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that it's so important to check your account online regularly, review your statements, balance a checkbook, and then you can make sure that all the transactions coming through are your transactions. If not, you have a time limit of 60 days to report anything that's fraudulent to be able to get assistance and possibly get those funds back.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So sometimes I hear that term dispute, and I'm not exactly sure what that means. Tell us a little bit more about, like, if I had a transaction come through my account for a company that I never gave permission to, versus, let's say I had subscribed to Hot Rod Magazine and I don't want it anymore, but they've already taken the money out of my account? Like, what's the difference?
So a fraudulent transaction is going to be a transaction that you absolutely did not engage in, a transaction that you did not make, you had no knowledge of. And a dispute is generally for a transaction that you did take part in, but something went wrong with. If you never received your merchandise, or if you received your merchandise, but it was damaged, or it wasn't what you ordered, or for a subscription that you canceled last month and they billed you again for this month. Especially with subscriptions, it's the buyer's responsibility to cancel that before they charge.
Okay.
And sometimes an automatic charge cannot be stopped, say if you cancel it the day before it's supposed to come out.
Sure. So it's
And
good to be prepared, be aware, because a lot of these things are time sensitive.
yes, and pay close attention when you are ordering something or subscribing. What terms are you agreeing with? I know it's super easy to just click that I read the terms and conditions box and carry on your way. But legally, you're responsible for reviewing those, and that's why you have to check the box. And the buyer is responsible for knowing what they're signing up for, and at least making an effort to settle it with the merchant before we go on to a dispute.
Sure.
Some merchants are amazing. They're very willing to help. They're willing to offer you a refund or return the merchandise if it's something damaged, or replace it if it never showed up. Sometimes the merchants aren't as helpful, and then that's what I'm here for. If you can't get a resolution with that merchant, then I'm going to dispute that with Visa, and we're going to try to settle it with the merchant.
Okay. And that's one of the nice things about having our card system, is that you do have resources available to help you out when it's available. And so if somebody purchased something with cash and they had a dispute, or they had fraud or something like that, they're basically out, right? Their only recourse is to try to go to the company and see if there's anything that can happen. But if you drop some cash on the sidewalk, that's probably gone, right?
Oh, yes.
So with having our card system, you've got that kind of backup to help protect our members.
We do. And a common misconception is that credit cards are safer and you have more recourse through a credit card. But under federal regulations, you have very similar protections with your debit card.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. What else? Let's see here. What else do you think people need to know about their cards?
With cards, I get a lot of calls from people that are wondering, I was trying to make this transaction and it got declined, but I know I have money in my account. And a lot of times it's not your balance that's the problem. Sometimes it's the way the merchant is processing it, or if it's outside of the limitations of your card. We have built-in limits to minimize your risk. And one of those common limits that people hit is an ATM limit. Our ATM limit is set at $410, so you can effectively withdraw $400 in cash, and that 10 is there in case there are any fees for using the ATM if it's not one of ours. And we never charge a fee for using an ATM, but a lot of ATMs for other banks are going to charge you if you don't bank there. So if you're not near an ATM at, say, a Quick Trip that's free, or one of our ATMs on site, there might be a fee. And usually they'll tell you, but we give you that wiggle room. And if you need to withdraw more than $400 in a day, that's totally possible. We can adjust those limits if you give us a call. There are also limits on things like point of sale. Like we have a $2,500 point of sale limit. So if you're going to make a large purchase, if you give us a call and let us know in advance, we can prepare your card to make that purchase so it won't decline you based on the dollar amount.
And point of sale, for those that are unfamiliar with that term, that would be like a store or a merchant. So I know in the past we had somebody that wanted to purchase a vehicle with money in their checking account by running their debit card. And so we had to increase their point of sale limit so that they would be able to transact that large dollar amount.
Oh yeah, another one that we run into not as frequently, but once in a while, is a transaction frequency limit. There's a built-in limit of 6 transactions per hour on your debit card, and that's just to prevent somebody from going hog wild if they swipe your card. So if you do plan on making, like right now, a lot of people are shopping online, and you can definitely make more than 6 transactions in an hour when you're shopping online. I know I've been click happy before. And we're seeing more of that now as people are shopping more online. So if you give us a call, we can definitely take a look at that and get those limits upped for you. And if you know you're going to be, say, paying all your bills at once, and you know there are a lot of them, if you give me a shout, I can up your limit for that as well so it doesn't cut you off. Because when it does cut you off, it cuts you off for a solid hour before your card will reopen itself.
Wow, that's really interesting to know. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course, before everybody was shopping online, we didn't see as much of it. It's hard to hit over 6 stores in an hour.
Yeah, you'd really have to be cruising to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, but now with how easy it is to order stuff on Amazon, we see it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What else would you like our members to know about their cards?
I think one of the big things is sometimes recognizing that your card is going to have issues once in a while and your chip might wear out. That's one thing that I think, when you have to insert it 3 times and then swipe it, it's an easy fix. It's something I can instant issue you a brand new card for because I know it's a big inconvenience. Mm-hmm. And it's a pain in the butt to be held up at the line.
And what does that term instant issue mean?
That means I can print a card to any of our locations from my desk.
So somebody can just stop in and pick it right up. They don't have to wait for it to come in the mail?
Nope. That lets us bypass when we're mailing it, that 7 to 10 days that it can take in the mail. I can issue one and you can swing through the drive-thru and you're back in business same day.
That's awesome. That's a great example about how HomeTown and people like yourself go above and beyond for our members every day.
It is very convenient. I know I've worked with other financial institutions that had temporary ones, but then you had a whole different card number until you waited for your new one.
Oh,
so sure. The convenience is being able to have that permanent card number immediately.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What else?
One of the other cool things that I get to do is working with things like travel cards. I generally recommend those if you are going on a trip and you don't want to use your debit card. The difference between the travel cards and the gift cards is that the gift cards you can't put more money on, and the travel cards you can reload. I know I've done the reloadables for my nephews. They make great gifts because if you want to put more money on it for their birthday next year, you can. And then I know there's a $2 fee for loading those, and the first time you get one, it's $6.95. But it's been very convenient for, say, my 13-year-old nephew who's at the age where he wants to be buying stuff online with his video games, but he's not quite old enough or responsible enough yet to give him a bank account.
Yeah, the wonderful thing about those travel cards is you can only spend what's on the card. And I've got a few friends that are still very hesitant towards embracing debit cards, but they want to do online shopping and bill paying. And so they instead use travel cards because they know they can only spend what's on it. And if a scammer were to get a hold of that card number, it's not going to impact their credit union account at all.
Yes, that is amazing because they are completely disconnected. And that's one thing with your debit card as well. A convenience with using your debit card versus using an ACH style payment where you pay with your routing number and your account number is that if you are hacked or if somebody does acquire your information, I can shut down your debit card very easily and issue you a new one without having to change your account number or modify the internal workings of your account. And each person on that account gets a different number. So if your significant other's card is compromised, it's not going to affect your card. And we only have to deal with that one card.
Wow. It sounds like we've got everybody covered, no matter which way they go.
We have a lot of different protections in place. We even have tip sheets at our locations for different best practices for using your card, or these cute little sleeves that are shiny and silver that you can put your card in. So if you walk by a skimmer, because not all skimmers have to actually physically touch your card to steal your information. There are some I know I've heard about in higher end stores where they put them somewhere in the store so people walking by could have their card information read.
Wow.
There are different wallets that protect from that. I know I've seen phone cases with card slots in the back that have different things in them that will shield your card. But we have the HomeTown sleeves for your card. And they have a sticky back so you can stick it to your wallet. I know a couple of my customers stick them to the back of their phone. And you can use that to hold your card as well as protect it if you're walking by something that may read your card.
And how much could somebody expect to pay for security like that in that wonderful, attractive looking card wallet?
I've seen some pretty cheap ones on Amazon. A friend of mine got one of the phone case ones for like $10.
Wow. And how much are the Hometown Credit Union ones?
Free.
Nice. Nice. So
And they look really snazzy.
stop by one of our locations and you can get a free card protector sleeve. Just tell them Jazz sent you.
Oh yeah, we have tons of them. I got a whole box.
That's awesome. What else would you like to share with us today, Jazz?
One of the things I talk about a lot with my customers is how fraud happens. And there are a lot of ways that fraud can happen. And sometimes people come to me saying, you know, I feel dumb, or I feel really terrible about this happening, and I feel like I made this happen by shopping online. But I can assure you that even the safest people can face consequences of fraud, and it's never anybody's fault. A lot of times merchants that you may shop at regularly can have a security breach that they don't know about yet. So
And tell us a little bit more about what a security breach is, because I've heard that term before.
a security breach is when a hacker or a scammer breaks into their records electronically so they can access the information of people who have shopped there. And it might be a place that you've shopped in person. I know Hy-Vee has had a security breach before, and several local places have. It happens all over the world. Or it could be a place that you've shopped online, that someone hacked into their system and accessed your information after you've purchased something. So a lot of times the electronic fraud, it's a little unsatisfying because it's very hard to track down the person that did it, because they swipe all this information and then carry on and disperse it and sell it over the dark web. So they might be anywhere in the world.
Sure. And the criminal that buys that information can put that onto blank cards and then go out and spend
Yes.
our members' money, theoretically.
And they can create a fake magnetic strip or just order themselves a bunch of stuff online.
Mm-hmm.
I know during Christmas we saw a large surge in online order fraud.
Okay.
Because so many people are shopping, and that's when fraudsters are at their happiest. Even right now we're seeing a large increase with everyone shopping online. And the hackers are bored in quarantine too, so they're just swiping info left and right.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for having you on our team and all the safeguards in place to keep members' money where it should be, in their own accounts, right? Is there any other ways that scammers try to obtain members' card information?
It's called social engineering scams, where they might call you saying that they're from another company and request your information, or tell you that you owe them money, or that someone that you know is in trouble and they need you to send them money. One of the scams I worked with recently with a lady was that a company called and said, we're from this computer company and you worked with us a couple of years ago and we overcharged you. And they were trying to get her to give them her information so they could send the funds back to her. But then they told her, we're going to send you $3,000 and we need you to send us back $2,800. And you get to keep your $200 refund. We just need you to buy gift cards with this and send them back.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of red flags.
It is. And luckily, she gave us a call and she didn't give them any information. She checked with us first. And we were able to put a temporary hold on the debit card and restrict that so it couldn't be used, as well as freeze funds in her account for a couple of days until she was feeling a little bit safer, as well as talking her through it. It's very stressful. Sometimes those people that are making these calls can be very threatening and very mean, and they sound like they know what they're talking about. But if anyone is calling you and asking you for your banking information, your debit card information, your logon for your online banking, that's not something that a company that has worked with you and is legitimately trying to give you a refund is going to ask for. And it's not something the IRS would ever do. That's a common scam as well, that they'll pretend they're from the IRS and call and say you owe them money. But the IRS wouldn't just give you a call and say, hey, you owe us money. They would send you something formal in the mail.
Yeah, I've heard that too, that the IRS will only reach out to you through the U.S. Postal Service. So if you get a call from somebody stating they're an agent with the IRS, hang up.
Yes, and the scary thing is sometimes these people have looked at Facebook pages or looked at social media that you have and found out things about your life. So they might know the name of your grandson and tell you he needs help. But if your grandson needed help, wouldn't he give you a call from his phone number? And that's one thing that we advise people. If somebody calls and says that one of your family members is in trouble, let them know you'll give that family member a call and try them. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick up and be at home. And they're not in jail in Tijuana.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah, scammers are very convincing, and a lot of times they try to play off your emotions. So you make a decision based off of emotions instead of logic.
They do, and they put a lot of pressure on you. They make the situation seem very dire.
Yeah.
I've had people tell me these people are calling them saying, you're going to go to court and you're going to get arrested and we're going to take your house. But none of that is going to happen overnight. And if the cops were coming for you, I don't think they'd call you first.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Jazz, thank you so much for joining us today. If a member had a question that they wanted to ask you, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They can either give me a call. My direct line is 507-455-6740. Or if you call our main line and you ask for me, they'll get you right over. I also receive emails at jgallagher@hometowncu.com. So feel free to reach out in any medium. Once we open up our lobbies, you can come visit me at the Bridge Street location if you have questions or want to take a look at anything.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody that joined us today for this Lunch and Learn. We look forward to seeing you again soon.